Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the map view hit test that you can use in the JavaScript API. The hit test is pretty interesting because what it will do is it will allow you to pass a geometry to the view, and you will get back the topmost feature for each layer that is in the map, right? So if I have 5 layers in my map, then I use hit test with a point. I'm going to get back the first feature that we hit for every layer. You'll also get back a feature from the vector tile layers, but it's only going to return the ID of the layer and the style. You don't get any kind of like magic information in that case. It's just going to be an ID for the style that you hit. A lot of times people are asking, well, why can't you just return everything? I know I've got a layer that I'm constantly updating data on, and I might have 500 points at the exact location. I mean, that's just too resource intensive at that point. It's kind of, if you need that kind of data pulled from your map, you're better off going with something like the identify task. So you can go ahead and identify a specific point on the map and pull the information that way. The hit test is really designed to work for interactive applications that are going to be mostly pulling data client side, so that they could be really fast, right? They're meant to make some really cool interactive maps and do some things that way. You can do them for some more interesting things, but I said the hit test is designed to just pull those features very quickly from the map. So let's see how something like that would work. And I'm going to use the feature widget down here to do that, right? So the idea is that I want to go ahead and hover the mouse over the map. And as I do that, I want to grab the feature, pass it to the feature widget, which really is just a sub widget of the API that the pop-up uses to display the pop-up content for features and display it in here. I can do really cool stuff with the feature widget, like put it in a sidebar, put it in some other part of the application that's not even part of the map to show that kind of pop-up content. So I've got my feature widget ready to go. I've got my widget added. So what I want to do is I want to get my layer view. I want to wait for the layer view to be done. So that's why I have when layer view. I get the layer view here. I'm going to do some highlighting on the map. So I have my highlight. I'm going to listen for the pointer move. Doing this right? Yeah. Pointer move. I'm going to get back my... Now, because I'll be moving around very quickly here, there may be cases where I am moving over this feature, for example, and I don't want to grab every instance of the pointer move on this because I'm just kind of doing some unnecessary work. So I'm going to use a helper that we have in the API in our promise utils module called debounce. So I'm just going to debounce this method a little bit. And it's just, if you've ever done debouncing with anything, this is just a nice way to kind of make sure you don't do this task too quickly. It's got a little bit of a delay here. So I'll debounce it, or not a delay, but you don't run it every time, right? You get my drift. So now I'm going to do my hit test. And the hit test takes a screen point. And again, the event is going to have the X and the Y from the browser, what the screen point is. So I can just pass the event directly to the hit test, like that. This is a promise, right? So then from here, I'm going to get, what am I getting again? Oh, I'm going to get my result for the hit test. The response, we'll call it. I don't want to call it an event. I've already got an event. So we'll call it a response. And this response is going to have some results, right? So I guess really quick I can do this. I can destructure this, get some results here. So then what I want to say is I want to, because I'm going to pass these features to the feature widget and show the pop-up content, I'm really only interested in the results that have pop-up templates, which I think should be everything, but just to be safe, let's do that. Let's put that const my results, because I don't know how to get creative here, is going to be equal to results.filter, and I'm going to get I'm going to get a result from here. I'm going to return. I only care if it has the pop-up template. So the result has a graphic, so it's an array of results that's going to have a graphic, and that graphic is going to have a layer, a parent layer, and I only care if the parent layer has a pop-up template. Right, so now I've got these clean results in here that I can use. I am only going to get the first one because that's all I care about in this case. So my result is equal to my results, the first one. In my case, I only have the feature layer. That's all I care about. But there is a vector tile layer in here. My camera's sorry about that. There is a vector tile layer in here. So there are going to be other results that are not part of the feature layer. So I could go through and I can filter on the layer type, but I just happen to know the first one is going to be the feature layer, so that's why I'm doing this. I know my first result is going to be the features I'm interested in, so I can do it this way. Now, as I'm doing this, if I have a highlight, so if the highlight's not null, I want to remove it. Highlight dot remove. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so now what I want to do, if I have the result, you know, if there is something here, I'm not just kind of zooming over the ocean or something like that, kind of a thing. Oh, so a trick here when you're working with doing some interactive client-side stuff like this, right? So I need this to be really fast. I want to pull a pop-up template in here. Once I've got my graphic here, this result.graphic, it's really no longer associated with the layer at that point. So if the fields needed for the pop-up are not available, then they're not going to provide a pop-up, the information I needed for the pop-up template. Okay, does that make any sense? So the way you can get around this, now the best way to get around this is to know exactly what fields you want. But if you don't, you can do this little bit here and do outfields star, right? Ideally, you want to know exactly what fields you need, because if the layer had like 100 fields, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous to bring all of them in if you don't need them. That type. So you do this outfield star, and then this will work really nicely for you at that point, right? Now all of the fields needed for the pop-up will be available. The API is optimized so it only brings in the fields needed to draw the data, and then pop-up data is kind of fetched on the fly. But when you're doing something like this, interactive actions where you're pulling a graphic and you're going to feed it to like the feature widget, well, at that point it's no longer associated with the layer, so the layer is not going to fetch the data for the pop-up template at that point. It's just going to go ahead and do it's going to render what it can render. So if you want it to be fast, you can go ahead and do it this way. All right, so now outfield star, and bam, look at that. Everything works like super fast now, which is really cool.